Hi everyone! Today, because we're going to be talking about the Fool card, I thought it would be very fitting to go on a little spontaneous walk. I wasn't really sure where it was going to take me. I'm not quite sure why I'm so drawn to graveyards, but hey ho. It's really cute, so I'm going to try and set up somewhere and do some filming with you guys and have a little bit of a discussion. It's super foggy. Can you see that? I'm not sure if that's gonna show. It's so misty. We've had some crazy sunny days recently, but next thing you know, it gets proper foggy. But it looks kind of cool, it looks kind of spooky, fitting for the graveyard visit. So today I did something which is somewhat embodying the Fool card. It is the very first card in tarot. This is obviously card number 0, as you can see from the top of the card. So I thought it will be a good start to, I don't know whether this is going to be a series or not. I'm really infamous for starting series and never carrying them on. But I thought it would be a good little opportunity to sit and discuss the Fool card with you guys today, because I'm a big fan of learning through discussion. I know there's a lot of videos here on YouTube where people will give you keywords of the Fool, and it's very quick, easy, concise, condensed information, which is really handy for when you want something quick. But I learn so well, I always did through school and college, etc., through talking to people about thoughts on the topic that I'm learning, or hearing it out loud, like having a sit down discussion with someone about something that I'm trying to get in my skull. I find that I remember it a lot better through conversation, through sitting down with someone and properly stuck into a topic. So I thought we would discuss the Fool, and actually, like I was just saying, today I did something which I purposely did something that celebrates the Fool energy, and that is a tip of mine that I gave in my Tarot Reading 101 tips and advice for the newbie video that I made recently on my channel. If you're interested in that, I'm really proud of it. I made my own little system that can help a lot of newbies learn how to master tarot. I will leave a link to that down there. But in that, I spoke about how you can learn a lot from actually stepping into a card and pretending to be the person in the card, trying to really get to grips with what kind of environment they're in, what they're doing, why they're doing it, how they're thinking, what they're feeling, what they're probably saying. And today I even tried to dress a little bit like the Fool. The Fool, to me, in a lot of cards, dresses quite hippie-ish. I don't know, I would say tie-dye or astrological kind of clothes. I think there's a bird up there or something. And I wore my favorite little spacey skirt, and I got my little sun and moon shirt on, and I left the house with no intention of where I was gonna go. I just sort of started walking, and I knew I wanted to be around trees, but I didn't know where was the right place to do that, particularly because I always get worried that, whoa, it suddenly got super misty. Well, I can literally look directly at the sun and it's not burning my eyes because there's so much fog. That is crazy. But I got myself here in this little spot and I camped up. It's nice to do that because I've avoided this area to film in for a while because I wasn't really sure whether there was any nice little nooks that I can kind of sit in and film. But because I wasn't stressing about that, and I just went and just said to myself, it doesn't matter if I don't find anywhere. If I do, great. If I don't, then maybe next time. And that's sort of the way I want you guys to see the Fool when it pops up in your readings, when you're shuffling and it falls out the deck, when it describes the person you're reading, or it's an instruction guiding you on how you should take your day ahead, or it's asking you to embody that energy a bit more, or maybe it's whatever position it's landed in. It could even be a position of you in the future or you in the past, whatever it lands in. I think the main thing to take from this card is the mystery, is the unknown, is the fact that the journey isn't structured, isn't planned, doesn't have some set instructions that come with it. That's actually the beauty of the card, because there are a lot of cards that I find really similar to the Fool card, such as all the aces, like the Ace of Pentacles, the Ace of Wands, even the Tower card is very similar, even the Death card is very similar to the Fool, because they all speak about a new beginning and something on the horizon that is fresh and new and not exactly promised, or doesn't come with any promises on how well you're going to do in that new situation or how that's exactly going to go down, because it's all down to potential and it's all down to what you make of the situation. And it's a little bit similar to those cards, but the only difference I find with the Fool is that the mystery behind it is actually part of the beauty. So the Fool is very much in the present moment, so she enjoys the process, whereas the Ace of Pentacles, you might be more focused on where that's going to lead you. Like, you want to be focused on the Ten of Pentacles, so like the outcome of where that journey is taking you. Whereas I would say the Fool doesn't necessarily have a lot of goals. I wouldn't say she necessarily cares if anything comes from the thing that she's doing right now, because she's the kind of person who would say, oh, well, I had fun doing it, so it doesn't matter. It would be good if you could imagine a situation when you were like that in your life, when you were creating something or doing something, or you took on a new job, or you went into the dating world with an open mind and you didn't care about whether you ended up with someone after attending that blind date night, or when you did something that was just a little bit maybe out of character. Because I would say, with the Fool being card number 0, she hasn't had a lot of experience in the thing she's about to jump into. So if you can imagine a time where you were a bit like that, cling on to that moment, cling on to that experience every time you see the card pop up. Or if that description that I just told you then reminds you of someone in your life who is very spontaneous, who just enjoys every moment as it comes, remember their name, remember their face when this card comes up for you in future readings. It really, the Fool really reminds me of those times when you reflect over stuff that's happened in your life recently, and you think about how much you've gone through in 5 years, whether planned, whether arranged, whether spontaneous, it doesn't really matter. I think that the Fool card is all about that moment you get when you realize what life-changing events or how your life's panned out in the last 4, 5, 10 years has been like, and then you realize anything could happen next year in a good way, in like an exciting kind of, wow, like I have probably 40 more years left of life. I don't know where it's going to take me. I'm excited to see where it does, who I meet, what happens. Like, you know how so much can change in a year, and that's really like mind-blowing sometimes. That's the feeling of the Fool. It's like, well, we've got a lot more years to ride. We have no idea where it's going to take us. I'm excited to see where it does. I'm excited to see what plans come about from nowhere, any surprising events that happen even better than maybe I expected them to, and plans that turn out really, really fun, like way more fun than you even thought they were going to be. That's the Fool. You're thinking like the Fool when you're in those moments. Remember that, because having a sort of relationship with each tarot card will really help you read people and tell a story. Like, when you read someone, or even reading yourself, the cards are telling a story. They're talking to each other, and you can read textbooks that will help you understand the keywords of each card. But what makes a good tarot reader, I think, is when they relate to each card personally. And every tarot reader's got a different story to tell. They've got a different angle, a different way of explaining each tarot card. And every reader has something new to bring to the table, because they've all lived different lives, right? So what makes you unique and special as a reader is your own connections. So don't rely too heavily on the internet, on books. But I mean, I did as well. Like, you kind of have to start off, but as you kind of get to the grips of things, I would say it's really important to trust in those experiences that you hold close to a certain card. So something else I really like doing is taking the same card of every single tarot deck you own. You might not have a lot of tarot decks, and it's okay. You don't have to do this. You can maybe look at some online. You don't have to have them in physical form. But something I like to do is to grab every single deck that I have, just to compare all of the cards that are the same number. It's a really good learning technique. And the reason why is because it reminds us that art is deliberate, and there is a purpose behind every line, every color, every item in the image, every facial expression, every shading. Once you can wrap your head around that, if you're someone who enjoys art anyway, that's a head start in a sense, because you understand the concept of art being very deliberate. They've only got like a small amount of space. They're not gonna waste any of that space on something that isn't actually meaningful. So in looking at different pieces of art that are describing the same meaning, it helps us pick up on the consistencies, so the things that exist in every card, and even the inconsistencies, because the ones that, you know, for example, this card is the only one out of all of them that has a rainbow on it. And obviously rainbows represent brightness after a storm, so sun after a storm, so it could be new beginnings, it could be things coming on up. I want to say like legends, a lot of stories and conspiracies behind the idea of there being a pot of gold at the end of a rainbow. And there's also I think what is called a Pegasus at the bottom of the full card there, and I haven't seen that on a full card before other than this one, but it's making me wonder whether that kind of idea of someone who believes in magic and believes in, I want to say foolish behavior, foolish way of thinking, because I'm not saying it's like a bad way of thinking, but it's definitely someone who has more faith and trust in the far-fetched and things that don't have any fact behind them or logical explanation behind them, because there is a feeling of ungrounded energy on the full card, and someone who's taking part in something with those kinds of beliefs would do it from a place of just like complete faith in jumping off the end of a cliff and assuming that someone's gonna hold them, something's gonna work out, they're not gonna fall flat on their face. It is kind of foolish thinking in a way, but also we've sometimes got to embrace that way of thinking, because sometimes they do turn out okay. As much as they might not, they also might turn out amazingly and be the best decision of our lives. And speaking of the word fool itself, I know when I first started learning tarot, I always found that to be such a strange word to describe a card that doesn't have a lot of negative connotations. I used to think it did because of the way it's called the Fool, but I actually like how the word fool has two very different meanings. I feel like that can be said in two very different ways. For example, I think that your friends are likely to call you a fool when you do something silly that makes them laugh, or like you make a mistake and they're like, you're such a fool, like you're such a divvy, like, oh, he's such a dingbat. And your family, on the other hand, I feel as though they have a more strict, kind of judgy way of looking at your life's decisions, and calling you a fool would be for taking an exam without revising for it, or losing your phone when you're at the beach. The fool can be both of those kinds of people. They can be really fun people, spontaneous, never a dull moment with the fool, because they go where the wind blows, they enjoy life, they take all their friends with them on fun adventures. People want to be around the fool because they never know what they're going to get, and it's fun, it's fruity, it's fresh, it's refreshing. And the fool is also likely to be someone who is happy most of the time, because they are quite comfy with very little things on them. As you can see, like, there's only a light amount of stuff in her bag. She hasn't got a lot on her. In every full card, they always travel lightly, and that tells me that they are quite easily pleased people. They don't need a lot of money, a lot of stuff. They're just really happy and content. That's all that's really important to them. So they are like amazing people to be around, and incredible people, inspiring people. But on the other side of that same coin, that naive way of thinking and being can probably get themselves in a lot of sticky situations. I guess it's like that Labrador energy some people have. Like, I love being around people who are quite naive, because it's refreshing to see someone who isn't stressed out about the little things, or always in the same situation doing the same thing or having the same conversations with me. Like, it's nice to be around someone who has a more kind of fluid way of living, but they probably have more conversation to give and more things to say, because they're more likely to get themselves in sticky situations or fall into a situation where it's like, what the heck, like, why are you not thinking, like, what the heck is going on? Like, so they can be foolish people, but they're also some of the best kinds of people. And that's a really nice way for me to tell you how I think the fool should be remembered as. If you think about how they are traveling lightly, that itself is a negative and a positive. Because of the fact they're traveling lightly, they can go more places, they get by with little stuff, and they don't have a lot of baggage, they don't have a lot of stuff weighing them down. But that does mean if there is anything at the bottom of that cliff that they will end up injuring themselves on, like they're jumping off a cliff, right? They're taking a risk here. They're assuming that something on the other side of their new journey is going to be soft and spongy for them to fall onto. But if it isn't, they have little stuff to help them. They have minimal things to bandage themselves up with, and they won't have a lot of materials to sort of just help themselves. Do you see what I'm saying? So there, with every card, there is a positive and there is a negative, but there's something really charming about the Fool. So in terms of love readings, career readings, finance, friendships, whatever you're reading on and the Fool comes up, the main things for you to keep in mind is the idea of something new. So it can be new friendships, new relationships, a new career. If it's a love reading, someone might be back in the dating game, or feeling optimistic, or not having a lot of stress about how it goes. They're just like ready to embark on a new adventure. If it's in a career reading, it's someone maybe coming out of university, so they're graduating and they're feeling a little bit inexperienced, because remember, it is card number 0, but they're ready for the new, they're optimistic. Or let's say it's financial, you could say that they're quite carefree when it comes to their money. They don't have a lot of maybe savings, they don't have a lot of income because they've got a little backpack on them, so they don't have a whole lot of materials. But I wouldn't say there's a lot of worry. What I will say though, when it comes to things like dating and finance, the only worry of the Fool is the fact that they are a Fool. They are being very in the moment. So with things like finance, you've got to be careful, because you've got to say to people, look, like, I get you're happy, you're enjoying yourself, you're spending where you want to spend, and you're not stressing right now, and you're just kind of enjoying yourself. You know, I can kind of see the Fool spending a lot of money on things like gigs and travel and just exploring the world. But then you've got to also think, you've got to maybe ask, like, would you ever consider at least putting a little bit of money away, or at least having some sort of structure in your bank account? And then with dating, the Fool is someone who is likely sleeping around, someone who doesn't have intentions to commit, because remember, the Fool isn't about committing to anything. They're easy breezy, they're fluid, they go with the flow. So you want to say to them, is that something which the other people who you're talking to also wants to, you know, making sure that all the intentions are out there and they're not going around recklessly breaking people's hearts, and they're just doing things out of fun because they want to, and because the other people that they're sleeping with and seeing also want to too. So when this comes up for love readings, I always just say, oh, you're having fun, aren't you? You don't really want to commit. But don't get me wrong, the Fool can come up for people in committed relationships too. However, it embodies a more kind of Aquarius way of loving your partner. So it could be picking up on you, the client, or their partner, who has a way of being in a relationship that's fun, it's fruity, it's going to new places together. You might have recently kind of taken risks together, or tried something new together, or you've gone on a lot of fun dates outside, out and about. And that's why I love the Fool, because she's happy, she's content as she is now, and that's all that really matters, because tomorrow is never promised. But obviously we sometimes have to put our sensible mummy head on, or our emperor head, or our father head, whatever you want to call it, and say, that's all well and good, but just be careful, because you never know what's around the corner. But that's the whole point of the Fool. The fact that she never knows what's around the corner anyway, she may as well just go through life taking it one step at a time anyway, because even if we plan, structure, we've got A to Z of a plan in front of us, life can sometimes pick us up and throw us in a complete different zone, and life is what happens when we're busy making plans. I don't know for how long I've been talking for, so I'm just going to leave that here. If you enjoyed this little sit down and talk, then maybe I can do the same thing for other cards. Let me know if there's any cards in particular that you want to hear about, or maybe I'll just work my way down the numbers. Thank you very much for watching. I'm on social media such as Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. If you would like to book a reading with me, please do so. I have a tarot reading Instagram and a tarot reading Facebook page. Links are down there. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already to be notified every time I make a brand new video, and like this video if you enjoyed videos like this. Thank you guys, and I'll see you for my next one. Bye.